Dude, it took us probably 3 weeks. When I quoted it at 1 week, the guy's it was an 80-acre property, and probably 25-ish acres of it was on fire, underbrush just burning up.
It's a new week, which means a new episode of the Skid Steer Nation podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Deemer, and this is where you can come listen and learn from other excavation business owners, hear about their struggles, their tribulations, their successes to help you become a better business owner and shorten that learning curve between break even and profitable. So today our guest is Andrew Hurley. Before I introduce him, I do want to remind you that skidsteernation.com is your home for high quality American-made skid steer attachments. Guys, I ran manufacturing for 10 years. I have vetted these manufacturers. The quality's there. You will see a massive ROI in your business with the right attachments. So don't take guesswork. Don't gamble. Don't wonder where you get it from. Head over to Skid Steer Nation. We have done the homework for you to make sure that your business succeeds. Andrew, out there in North Carolina, Mount Gilead, you said kind of central of the state, IT guy. I'm talking educated office IT guy. COVID comes around and boom, excavation, man. I'm excited to have you and hear your story today.
Man, Ryan, certainly do appreciate the opportunity to be on. Look forward to help whoever I can. If it's one little thing, great. I look forward to it.
Yeah, this is by far my favorite part of the week is this to sit down and like have wonderful conversations. It's hard to find other business owners to talk about business with sometimes.
Yeah, it is. It is. A lot of people it seems, especially in those first couple of years, it's like a little battle because everybody, I think like years like 0 through 5, it's like a little mosh pit because everybody's competing for work and nobody wants to, like, you're stealing my customers. You're stealing my customers. Like, I hope your house burns down to where it's like, and then, but all those little, like they start to weed out. And then you get to like, as you go on, you're like, hey man, this guy can help me. I'll send stuff to him. He'll send stuff to me and you start working together. So I think that's a big thing.
But I mean, most of the time, like your spouse, your partner, or your friends aren't business owners. And like you start talking P&L, cash flow, advertising, SEO, and they just start patting you on the back saying, you're doing awesome. You'll figure it out, man.
Yeah. Good luck.
That's all you get.
Yeah.
But you're lucky. You get to start your business with, remind me, your cousin?
No, that's my brother. Yeah, me and my brother, 50-50.
Your brother.
Yep. So he's out in the field today. I'm in the office.
Okay. I'm excited to hear your take on working with your brother because my brother and I owned a business for 11 years together.
Yep. Yeah. So. We have, don't get me wrong, but we've had moments out there where it's dang near fist fights, but for the most part, me and him were very similar, but we're very different. Like he we have our roles that we do and we got those like very ironed out and we know what each other's good at and we let the other one be good at what they're good at and the other one's good at what they're good at. And so it's where like a lot of people say, don't go into business with family. Like, man, like if you trust, like I trust my brother more than I trust anybody on the planet. And like, I don't have to worry about him. I don't have to look over his shoulder and me and him just work well together. And I know that doesn't work for everybody, but in our situation, it's perfect.
Yeah. But you said the key part, and I tell this to everybody that I talk to that says they're looking at bringing on a partner or starting with a partner. And I'm like, listen, while you're calm, cool, and collected before shit hits the fan, you need to break out responsibilities.
Yeah.
And that person that gets that responsibility, he has final say and it's not negotiable.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. 100%.
Because it takes all that fighting in the moment away.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Yeah, no doubt.
Like I'm assuming with you having an IT background, anything website related, marketing related, and all that's probably funneling through you.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you got it. Yeah. Everything back end is me. Everything front end, like the work, the site, like the planning, like what we're going through. Now we quote and bid stuff together. Like we're both looking at projects together, but like when it's in the field, he's got the call.
Yep.
And that's his world. That's what he's better at it. And I think that's a lot for a lot of like founders, owners, when they bring in a partner, like they're too like proud to be like, he's better at this than me. And that's where me and him both know. He's like, hey man, look, you're better at the back end. I'm better at the front end. And like, I let him be, that's where he's best at. And that's where like, this is your call. And so that's what's helped us a lot.
Well, let's be honest. I mean, you've worked in some pretty large corporations and Fortune 500 businesses, correct, in your career?
Yeah. I've spent
you want to surround yourself with people smarter than you. Like that's the goal in business.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I've ran not huge teams, but I've had 15 plus people under me. And it's like, I want smarter people under me because then it makes my life easier. If I've got to be, like you don't want to be the best. You don't like you want to be the best, but you want to find people that are better than you that facilitate roles that then you can replace your time and go do other stuff that you're good at and enjoy doing.
Yeah. Because especially today with technology, there's so many skills you need to be a business owner. You can't be proficient at all of them.
No, you can't. You can't. No, absolutely not.
So let's talk about the business for a little bit, man.
Right.
Hurley Earthworks. You guys kick off. You buy the machine during COVID, correct? Just for a little side hustle.
Yeah. So it started in we started towards the end of 2019. We were fumbling around, like, man, we want to do something. Like we're just, tired of the not necessarily like the living for the weekend thing, but it's like, man, we want to start generating some income, start doing something. Like we didn't know where we were going. And it started out, Austin was like, well, man, let's buy a skid steer. Because he didn't go to college. He told mom and dad, he's like, I'm not spending a day in college. I'm going straight to work. And he wanted to run equipment. You can go back through, I tell people this all the time. You can go back through, mom has all our notebooks from when we were children. And like from elementary school, you go through all of mom's spiral bound notebooks that Austin has. And in class, it's like he ain't taking notes. He was drawing excavators and log trucks and bulldozers. And that's all he wanted to do. He knew he wanted to run equipment. So he started out logging. And so that was kind of his background. And mine was in tech. And I was like, man, I'll do whatever you want. I don't care. Like, we're not scared of work. And so we bought a skid steer in 2020. Put down, I think we had some cash. We put down 10 grand cash, finance the rest, to start establishing a little bit of business credit. And our first goal was like, we want this thing to make its own payment every month. If we're doing that, we'll call it a win, because we were both still working full time. And then it just kind of, and it was the same thing. Probably most everybody else that comes on here tells you, it's like started out driveways, little bitty lot clears, bought a little brush cutter, doing shooting lanes for people getting ready for deer season or food plots and stuff like that. And then we started just adding pressure and, started marketing and doing some ad stuff and like building a real website, shooting content. And I got about, I don't know, a year and a half, 2 years in, Austin's like, I'm quitting. I'm going full time, because it got to the point to where we couldn't weekend warrior it anymore. We were getting called about taking on bigger stuff. And it's like, man, these people wanting multiple acres of land cleared. And it's like, man, we can't do this on Friday, Saturday, Sunday and get it done. So that's when Austin was like, I'll quit. I'll jump. I'll make the jump. And like, if it wasn't for him jumping, we might still be in the same place we were. But yeah, he's been doing it full time for 2 years. So, and then it just kind of, it's propelled to where we're at now.
Huh. That's so awesome. And you don't really do any residential work anymore at all, right? Majority of your work's commercial?
Very, very little residential now. And I think, man, a lot of it, and it's like it got to the point to where, and I know everybody says this when we go in here, the market's saturated. It is very, very saturated. And so like with us, it was more of we were doing residential, and it got to where we were, a little bit driveways. Those first 2 years, you're taking whatever you can get. Like you're having to pick up whatever you can to keep the ball moving. And then around year 2.5, we started focusing on just clearing land. And that was it. Like we were just doing residential land clearing, whether it was for like somebody building a new food plot on a hunting property or like site prep and construction. But it's to this point where you have so many people coming in 2 cent, and people talk about all the time, 2 cent Timmy. I can do it. I got a mini X and I can do it for $4,000 or whatever. And so it wasn't that we wanted to get away from that. It's just like, man, like it's so much headache to clear land like that for so little money. It's like, man, let's go after something where there's a little bit more juice from the squeeze. And so, and the other point, like we had stuff, like we like doing residential stuff. We don't mind it. We still do some for like some of our longtime customers. But the other thing around here is like in our little area, our little town, there's not that much growth. Like we're an hour east, like we have to go towards Charlotte, towards Raleigh, towards Greensboro for any type of residential work. If you want to make real money. And if you want to run a little side business and keep yourself moving, like, yeah, you can do that. But like around here in our market, it's just, it's completely saturated. So we were just like, look, we wanted to make that was kind of our plan anyway. Once we got going in, we're like, we want to go towards commercial. So we got our general contractor's license with our public utilities for water and sewer. And we have a building contractor's license as well. And so that was a big move for us in the past 2 years was to get that, because in North Carolina, a lot of people don't know it, but if you don't hold a contractor's license, you can't do a project that's over $30,000. You're not supposed to. Now you can and I think there's probably some little bitty ways to get around it. Like we've done stuff before we had it, and we would just phase it. We call it like a multi-phased project where like, hey, we'll do 25 here, 25 here, 25 here. But like, you're not supposed to do over $30,000. So that was another big one for us. Like if you're going to go quote commercial work for a big GC, like they want to see your license as well. So that was our move, was just, we wanted to get to commercial. And now most of what I do now when I get a call residentially, and I'm pushing it to somebody else who's still doing residential. And like we built those relationships with other contractors in our area, which most people don't like doing, that is like, hey man, look, I want to help you too. Like I want everybody to win. There's enough out there for everybody.
Oh, so, absolutely. And the guests that I've had on that were on the path of bigger success than they originally saw all have a network of other excavation companies that they've worked together and share work or go do projects together if they're outside of scope or bigger scope than they can handle. And the ones that struggle are the ones that are trying to do it alone.
Yeah, you're trying to hug and huddle and hoard everything. And it's just, man, that's not the path. Like there's so much out there. Especially in North Carolina, still growing. Like I know like interest rates and stuff are kind of crazy right now, but like you go down towards like the Wilmington area, Raleigh, Charlotte, and those suburbs of those areas, and they're still booming. You can't throw a bed sheet somewhere and not see a construction site.
Well, I mean, you got states like mine. You got states like mine, Illinois, man. We're going ass backwards in policy, and our taxes are through the roof. 7% interest doesn't scare anyone to move out of Illinois.
No. Yeah. And so like, I think the Southeast, like the North Carolina, Tennessee, and, the Florida, Texas, like all of those are still popping. And it is like, I mean, it's still nutty in North Carolina, and that may change. Like, that could change tomorrow, but it's still crazy right now.
It'll take 30 or 40 years for the Democrats to erode enough of the population to switch the vote. But you're fine for a little while.
Yeah.
So driving question that I really want to dig into a little bit, because I think this is where a lot of guys, they hit that glass ceiling where they've been in business for 1, 2, 3, 4 years. They're doing really well, but they're ready to take that next step. So how did you go about and strategically plan to go find general contractors and build those relationships so that they knew who you were and trusted you as a sub?
Well, yeah, first was I burnt phones up, cold calling. I'd stop at a job site, talk to somebody, and then I would go through, like I go to the Chamber of Commerce at like our local county, and I'd call every GC that was listed. Like I was looking, I was Googling general contractors near me. And then the other one I did was like, there's tons of stuff, Plan Hub, Construct Connect, Dodge, like you go get on those lists and you can get on bid lists pretty easy, but it is getting somebody to trust you is the biggest one. And then like, even especially a scary thing for a lot of people, I think making that jump from residential to commercial is estimating, doing like accurate quantity takeoffs for your cut fields and material. And, a lot of it was like, we have one buddy who was his dad was a general contractor, and I leaned on him a lot. Like I've aggravated the crap out of that man asking him questions. And he was a building contractor, not in excavation, but still, like, it's kind of the same thing. It was like, hey man, how can I get in these people's pockets? How can I do this? How can I do that? But a lot of it, I think, man, it comes down like you got to burn the phones up, but who helps. Like being able to have somebody vouch for you that you've done work before. And that's another thing I did on the residential side was we built relationships with customers who might have been an asset to go reach out and vouch for us somewhere else. Like we have one, we met this guy, and this is another one where I think this is big for residential, and it helped set us apart for those couple of years when we stayed busy and other people weren't, was like the relationships that we built. We made it more about the customer than about just getting, all right, we did this little $5,000 project and we run off. Like I always try to stay in communication with those customers later. I have this thing where and this is some free game I'll give somebody. I call it like my little life cycle of a customer. So, and generally, like in a consumer based product, or like, think like an energy drink or a protein powder, they're touching customers every month. They want to touch them every month. Well, if I have somebody, we clear land for somebody, you ain't building a house every month. I may not get to you. You may not touch me, but twice in your life, 3 times if I'm lucky. Maybe every 10 years you come get me for a big project. So I'm not worried about you. I'm worried about your 10 closest friends and who's around you. So like one of the things that slid, like one of the projects we're on right now, the largest project we've ever done, came as a result of clearing land for this guy. Turns out he was a doctor. He loved us. And we went over and above for him. We were already well into the project. He asked us if we could clear a couple more acres. We told him we'd do it for free because we were already doing so much for him. And then we found out, hey man, he's like, I'm actually building a commercial property beside my other office, and I'm going to put up. I need somebody to do that site work. And so we ended up putting a GC in his pocket that we knew, and then we got the site work for it. So it's like, I think that's part of it too. And that's something that built that relationship for us through that GC, was something that we did residentially that didn't make us that much money. And we probably ended up losing money, truth be told, in the end of it. But it gave us a connection that ended up being a big payday a year or two later.
Yeah.
So I think that's one thing, man. It's like, it's relationships.
And Andrew, you and I think are going to say the exact same thing to everyone out there listening. There's no secret sauce. Mm-mm. It's a grind.
Nope. Yep.
Right.
It is, man. It definitely
is. I bet the pitch you had on your first phone call versus the pitch you had on your 100th phone call wasn't even the same, because you had practiced and learned what didn't work and you just dialed it in.
Yeah, I'm glad they couldn't see me on video, because I was probably shaking like a leaf. Like, I had it wrote out on a piece of paper. Like, my name is Andrew. I'm with Hurley's Earthworks, and like I had it all wrote out, and like I left tons of voicemails, and there's tons of no callbacks. But like the thing is, like, if you call 100 people and you get 5 callbacks, maybe one of them is like, sure, man, well, we might can throw you something, because you never know what somebody's missing. Like, you never know, like, there's always somebody that's looking for something, especially as like these big GCs, as they're growing, like they're taking on more projects. They're not trying to stay the same size. So they're always trying to take on more work and grow. So they're always going to be looking for more subs to feed stuff to.
Yeah. And really, I mean, I think Alex Hormozy says it best, especially I think as you get smaller and higher up that ladder, if you got to be willing to pay the price for success, and the price for success with customers is hearing 100 no's.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, and that's another one is what I started doing on the residential side. Was like, it's different on the commercial side, but on the residential side, it's like I wanted to get to my fastest no possible. So like if somebody calls me and it's like, hey, I need this done. It's like, okay, and I'm going to ask as many questions as I could up front, and then like try to give you a ballpark number without asking you how much money do you have to spend. Like, I want to get to where I can at least give you some type of ballpark number and try to close you on the phone before I waste my time going out to your property, spending an hour looking at you, to where, like, if you were gonna be a no anyway, I want to get to that no early so we can find the yeses.
Oh, we're kindred spirits. Like I preach that to everybody. I'm like, you should be pre-qualifying over the phone, because your most precious asset's your time. Yeah,
for sure. Absolutely. And that's the thing, is like, even if depends on how your ads are coming in, or like how your leads are coming in. If you're paying for leads, or if you're doing like ad spend to get leads, like, you want to make sure you're sending that stuff towards people that are qualified to spend money with you. Like, you don't need to be sending your ads to somebody, not being mean, but like that makes $20,000 a year and you need $20,000 projects to keep moving. You need to be sending that ad to the same person who up his Facebook feed was a Rolex ad or a Bugatti ad. You know what I mean? Like, you want somebody who has money to spend, who doesn't feel bad spending money, and like has projects to do, as opposed to a tire kicker who is ultimately looking for the lowest price.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think in North Carolina, you guys are pretty big horse country, right?
Yeah. Down like the Sandhill region, there's tons of horse stuff.
Like, that's a no-brainer. If you live in an area like that, start targeting aspects to your ads around equine, because those things aren't cheap.
No. And that's another one, is especially during times like when in down economies, those people that are equestrians, they still spend money on them horses, and like they don't stop, because usually their income's not impacted during a down economy like somebody else's would be. And them horses like to eat, and they like nice air conditioned barns now, and like they're going to make sure those things are taken care of.
Yeah. Yeah. And like the guys that lease hunting properties, I don't care if you're on food stamps, you'll find a way to pay for that lease.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Oh yeah.
I mean,
for sure.
I mean, I noticed a few of the photos when I was doing the old ex-girlfriend Facebook creep on you.
Yeah.
Like the two things I took away from that was like, damn, Andrew really cares about his health.
I do. Yeah, most certainly.
And he obviously is an avid outdoorsman and really enjoys getting out hunting.
Yeah, man, dude, that's big. Both of those are big, and I think like the health and wellness thing that translates back to like what people like. You only get one first impression, and like being a physically fit person, and you show up to a job site, and all your guys look different. They're seen different. They carry themselves different. They're all in shape. They're fit. Man, like people see that, and like it matters. It does. And like, I mean, I think that's impacted like stuff for us when we were still doing residential. Is like they see me and my brother and like we're well spoken, like looking somebody in the eye, call them back quick, be in shape, like take care of yourself. Like, man, that speaks without having to speak.
Yeah. And looking at some of those photos, like your version of in shape is substantially different than a majority of people. I mean, like you're just standing there holding a bow and your arms like riddled in veins. So you're probably the outlying 1%. But
maybe.
You know, but I mean, and usually the work that you guys do is probably enough exercise to stay somewhat fit. Just wear the appropriate attire so that you look.
Yes. Yeah. That's it. And I'm telling you, that's something that I have learned to where it's like, you know, like I said, I've been in IT for almost 15 years. I've spent 15 years in an air conditioned office in nice ice cold server rooms and like spending summers out now laying pipe, and I'm pipe layers in the ditch. Oh, buddy, my body was not accustomed to that. So there's been tons of workouts that I've been like, I'll look at my watch. I'm like, dang, I burnt 5,000 calories today. Like that stuff. It is, man. That stuff is a workout. It's a grind. But I think that's a big thing for people like owners and stuff that like me and my brother are very big on. And like, we've grown very quickly in 4 or 5 years, but it's just us and a couple part-time guys. And like, we've been very careful about what we've done to like not overexpose ourselves, like the debt, but like before you can ever manage teams of people and crews, like you've got to know what it's like to be in that ditch every day, well before you pay another man to go sit in that ditch and lay pipe and you sit in the truck. Like you've got to be willing to do the work, because one, so you understand what you're doing and like what you're bidding, what you're estimating, but also so you can be able to support him effectively when he's your employee.
Yeah. When I owned the bars and restaurants, I told everyone we interviewed, I'm like, I guarantee you there's not a job in this building I'll ask you to do that I personally have not done myself.
Yep. Yeah. I think that's big. I think that's big.
Yeah, it is big. And, you know, by knowing what they're going through, you then not only can support them with their job, but you can support them on like a human and a personal level. Because I don't know about you, but I mean, if you hired a laborer this year full time and he told you he just wanted to be a laborer in 10 years from now, you're probably like, you're not the right guy for me. Like, I want to help you succeed and climb the ladder. And eventually, if, you know, I would love to support you in starting your own business, because that means you gave me everything you had while I had you.
Yeah. I think that one is what I think a lot of people they grab employees just to fill a seat in those early days. And that's why we don't have a full-time employee yet. Like me and Austin, we're very like, I think those first couple hires are very, very important. And because like, those are those guys, and like you tell them like, and like, I think it's important to sell them the vision of like, here's where we want to take this company. Now you can come along for the ride. It's like, look, if you're willing to come and suffer for us for a few years, like you can be a superintendent one day. You could be the vice president of the utilities. It depends on where we end up going. But those first couple hires are so critical, because eventually as an owner, you're going to be out of the ditch. I'm not going to be at job site every single day, because I've got to go make sure we got more work to do later. And those people are so critical for defining your culture down the road when you're not on the job. So that's why we've been very picky about like, we have like part-time guys that we use, but like we don't have a full-time hire yet. Like we're like, man, we'll put this stuff on our back for as long as we have to until we build out the right crew.
Yeah, I love that you recognize that you have to be able to verbally explain the vision to get buy-in from those surrounding you in the business. It is.
Yeah.
If you don't sit down,
if you're going to have,
sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I'd say if you don't sit down and write out your goals and understand what that true vision is, you're gonna have a real hard time building a culture to support and sustain and reach it.
And it's making sure, I think, that like their goals fit under your umbrella. Like, and that's another one I ask, like we've interviewed folks recently, and it's one of the things I ask them is like, man, where do you want to be in 10 years? What's your dream? Like, do you want a Lambo and a jet, or do you want a nice truck and a fishing boat and a nice house with 20 acres and maybe some, side by sides? Like what is your goals? Because I want to make sure that as we build our stuff out, that your goals not align with ours, but that I can make sure yours fit. Because I want to make sure, like when I hire somebody, my intention is like, I don't want you ever to leave. But if you do, that's fine. But like, if you come here, I want to make sure I can give you what you want.
Yeah. You're not leaving because of us.
Yeah. Fact.
I love that. And yeah, because you have to have that team that shares values that you as an owner have. Because otherwise the vision and the culture can't succeed if everyone's always in turbulent mode over values.
Yeah. 100%.
You hire a guy that does laundry once a week and shows up in the same shirt 3 days in a row, you're going to lose your mind.
Yeah. I can't do it. Can't do it.
He's just a bad hire. So
yeah, it just doesn't work.
Oh man. Yeah. So partnership again. I'm intrigued by this. Like you and your brother, you've been doing it for a few years now. You said you've had some pretty close knockdown, drag out fights. I mean, my brother and I think we did go to fisticuffs once or twice in that 11 years. Yeah. What happens when you guys do have those days where the tension is just super high between the two of you? Like, how do you decompress and get back to normal?
With us, man, my brother's a big dude. He's 6'6", 245. Like he's larger than me. So I try not to go. I try not to throw hands with him anymore. We ain't fought in about 10 years, and I try to keep it that way. But like we do, man. Like we've had moments where it's real tense, and like it's knuckles are getting clenched. And it's like, man, I think this dude might swing on me. But it's usually on those days where it's like super chaotic, super stressful, or like timelines or deadlines need to be met, and like we will have moments where like we get mad, we get verbal with each other. But I think me and him both, like what normally happens with us is we both just need a few minutes, and if we step away because we both have the same vision, we both have the same end goals, and usually me and him are good about coming back together and be like, hey bro, look, I love you, I'm sorry, like this is stressful, this is chaotic. I know we both want the same things here. Like we're just trying to get through this and do it how it needs to be done and keep moving. And I think that's the big thing for us is like we separate for a few minutes, quiet. We don't say nothing. We might not speak for a few hours, but me and him are very good about coming back full circle and like, hey, I'm sorry, I was wrong, you were right. And we both we're good about, I don't know, letting go of stuff. We're not, me and him, we aren't grudge holders with each other because we know, like, I think it goes back to like our vision is so clearly aligned together that we're trying to get to the same goal. So us fighting one another is not conducive to our end game. So not to say, like I said, not to say we don't argue, but like we're good about coming full circle.
That's awesome. I'll tell you the biggest lesson I learned working with my brother, and my brother's 7 years older than me. And if you were to see, like maybe not today because we're getting older, but 20 years ago, everybody always asked how much younger my brother was than me. Mm-hmm. He's just like a big child, like, and he's just everybody loves being around him. Like he's just Mr. Jovial. He's a little bit, on the heavier side, so he doesn't have any wrinkles. Like he's a great dude. But I nitpicked his process. Mm-hmm. And that caused a lot of problems because I was just too young to recognize. I'm like, why are you doing it that way? Why don't you do it this way? Like it took me, and actually took after we closed the business and years later, I was like, I had a breakthrough of like, holy shit. I just didn't let him do it his way. Like we didn't
Mm-hmm.
like say, hey, here's the goal. Go do
Yeah.
your way. I'll do my way. We'll meet where we need to meet. Whether it was
Yep.
a small goal, big goal. I was trying to dictate the process of reaching the end result, and it actually drove a
Mm-hmm.
wedge between us without even
Yeah.
realizing it.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I think, man, a lot of, I think brothers or families that get this, they succumb to that. Like, don't get me wrong. I do the same thing. I'll watch him some days and he'll be, I'm like, why in the hell is he doing it that way? But it's like, look, he has his thing. And it's like, now I just have to let it be. And it's like, I know what he's doing. But I'm still like, I have that thing internally where it's like, I would do it different if I was sitting in a dozer, but he's in there. He's going to do it his way. I'll let him do it.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, the work's done. It's not much longer in time,
Yeah.
maybe even shorter. And you're like, oh, I'm glad I didn't say anything and cause a fight.
Yep. Yeah, I let him do his thing because he's bad at it. He is.
I didn't have that ability 20 years ago not to keep my mouth shut.
Yeah, I didn't a few years ago, but now it's like I know what happens, so it's like.
Well, I mean, because again, like you take that stress of the ownership, like it's your ass on the line, your finances on the line, like, and even though his is also, you're only seeing yourself and like, man, we got to get this done this way. You can't afford to do it that way. And like, so you get into that protective mode and you're like, and we become micromanagers and it's awful if you don't recognize it and break that habit.
Yeah, for sure.
Because like I tell guys, I'm like, you started a business. Most of these guys started a business because somebody they work for was a dick.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like,
100%.
Don't become that dick.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I've always heard is like people, and in my experience, when I'd left like the companies that I worked for, people don't leave companies. They usually leave managers.
Yeah.
100%. Like they had issues with like, yeah.
But like when you just go to work and you punch that clock and you go jump in the machine and you do your 8 hours of work and you go home, it's easy to get in work mode and disengage. When you own the business, it's work mode 24/7.
Yeah, there's no off days.
There's no off days. And then that stress that comes with it couples. And if you don't manage that properly, that's when you start acting just like the guy you hated because you start, because again, like you get in that personal stress bubble and you need things done this way or this faster. And you inadvertently become that dick. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's one thing, like with me, it's real easy to be like, you can do it however you want it. Because like, it wasn't my background anyway, like especially on the field side, hey, Bubba, I trust you. Like, that's why it's easier for me to step back. Cause like, I didn't have the experience of doing it. Like, I mean, I have experience now, but it's still like, hey, this was your world, not mine.
Yeah.
You don't tell me how to run the back end. I'm not going to tell you how to run the front end.
Yeah. I always loved, what was that Days of Thunder with Tom Cruise and Robert Duvall? What was his name? Henry Hogg, I think, Robert Duvall's character. And he just looked at Tom Cruise. He's like, let's go run 100 laps your way and 100 laps my way. And they look at the tires at the end of it. And he's like, his way, my way. And then that's when Tom was like, oh, got it. Like, there is a better way than the way I was doing it. And like, sometimes you just got to have that soft approach to be like, hey, let's just show you that,
For sure.
Especially with employees, maybe not a partner, but like if you have an employer and he's like, well, you're doing it this way. I'm like, let's do the next one my way and we'll time it out.
Yeah.
See how many less headaches you have this. Cause those are the lessons people remember.
Yep. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Speaking of things you remember, worst project you've ever worked on?
Worst project. Ooh. I'm trying to think.
I'm shocked. Most guys can rattle that one off fast.
Yeah. It's like, man, like we have a couple. It's like those first couple of years, we did a lot of learning. We had one, I underbid the crap out of one of our first land clearing jobs. Bad. It was an hour plus away from us. And I thought we were going to be able to burn on it. Like I said, I was still young. I didn't know anything. Couldn't burn there. It was going to require haul off. I quoted no haul off. Austin got there and Austin didn't go look at this job with me. I went and looked at it on my own, quoted it. Guy took it and Austin come up there and he looked and had a bunch of big white oaks all bloomed out and tons of brush to haul off. And dude, it took us probably 3 weeks when I quoted it at 1 week. There was a farm across the road. I went and we ended up making friends with the farmer. He let us drag brush across the road to burn it in his field. because we couldn't burn it into little residential development. But I think, man, we had a rented excavator on a rented 316 on that job, and bid it at a week, ended up keeping it for a month. There went any amount of money we made, and that was probably one of the worst ones. But like, I don't know, man. I look at it different, I guess, is like things don't happen to you, they happen for you. And so like each thing, like I look at everything that we did, like where we lost money or something bad happened. It's like, well, we didn't die. We're not out of business. Here's what we learned from it. And we're not going to repeat that shit again. So, but yeah, that was probably the worst one I would bet, because it was just, and then like there's no cash flow, like not like we weren't doing the level of work we're doing now. So it's like we're coming out of pocket, like drawing out of our checking accounts to to buy diesel fuel. And because you're hand to mouth those first little bit. And that was definitely, I don't know if it was year one, but it was definitely year two. And that was a bad one financially, time. But then again, it's just a lesson. We just learned from it.
That's what I say, Andrew. Like whether you go to college or you don't, education's not free.
No, no. Yeah,
you learn a lot
that
job.
It. Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah, that was definitely probably it. And like I said, it wasn't a bad project. It's just, man. But then again, it cost us, like we didn't have, we have no labor on it. It's sweat equity. And we're not billing the company for our time, especially then. It's like, it's just extra days.
Yeah. Nobody likes working for free either.
No. I don't do that. I stay at home.
So, absolutely, man. I love that. And I want to kind of talk a little bit more about your mindset that because like you made that comment about life doesn't happen to you, it happens for you. And my initial thought was like, oh man, he's read the Invictus poem. I am the captain of my ship, the master of my fate.
Yep.
It's the same philosophy, right?
Yep.
And it's if you're not living it that way, it's a hard mindset shift to make. But when you finally get that switch to flip, like you can start seeing the world in a completely different manner.
Oh, for sure. For sure. No doubt, man. I think mindset's big for me and my brother both is because we know what we're trying to do, where we're trying to go, and whatever you think it's going to take to get there, it's going to require more of you. It is. And so like being able, this is what I tell people, like when people ask us like, hey man, I'm thinking about doing this, or I'm thinking about getting me a Mini X or a skid steer. It's like, all right, dude, great. Look, I want you to go get it tomorrow, but get ready to get kicked in the teeth every single day for the rest of your life on some level. Because all you do as an owner is you put out, you're a fireman, you're putting out fires every day. So and this is where like, I think fitness and things come back in line for me is like, I go put myself through difficult, hard workouts every single day. And if I can go struggle and beat myself up doing that, it makes like the stuff that comes up in business a little bit easier. Like I don't know, it's discipline and like perseverance it's a muscle, and you've got to work that muscle out every day. Like if you're not like, I don't know, it's definitely, you got to get used to get kicked in the teeth. It's never going to go the way you expect it to go. 9 times out of 10. No. Rarely will you go out and bid a job and it go exactly like it was supposed to. That's why, like when you get project drawings, there's a reason that the owners get as-built drawings at the end of the project, and they don't get the pre-planned. The pre-planning drawings is not what the owner gets. They get as-built because things happen, man. And it's just being willing to persevere and endure and like just getting used to getting kicked in the teeth and finding ways like, hey, it didn't kill me. It made me better. And like find a way to enjoy that. Because if you're looking for like, it's all the hard stuff is what makes you great.
Yeah.
Being able to endure over and over and over.
And let's be honest, the universe always corrects itself. For every high point you get, you're getting a low point. And, if you endure enough low points, you'll eventually get a high point. Like it always balances out. So if you go on a 3-job run where you have no problems, be prepared. Because shit's coming, man. Like,
yeah, for sure. For sure.
And it won't be a small one either. It'll be like, oh, I got to correct 3 good jobs. We got to give them a doozy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, that happened on, like, you want to talk about another worst one, like on that the project for that doctor, like full circle for the site work for that. we're going, building the building pad. The engineer's coming out running his probe, and his probe's going straight to the ground. We ended up doing a 7-foot cut on that project. Cost the owner an extra $50,000 in dirt we had to import. And it was one of the deals. It's like, man, like, but it was one of those opportunities. Like, it took us extra time, and like, because we love that owner to death, and so we were like, look, you pay for the dirt. We will not charge you for the import and placement. And like, it took us time and it cost us money, but it's like, you know what, that dude's going to give it. Now, every building he ever builds moving forward, there's going to be one guy that does it. It's going to be,
and he's not getting quotes.
And so, there's no quotes. It's just like, hey, do it. Send, it's what it's going to be. But it's like, it's being willing to deal with that hardship. And like, cause it's, stuff that's unexpected like that happens. It's going to happen on every project.
Well, and like, I'm surprised you didn't bring it up when I asked that question, but like, one of the things you told me about is that some underbrush caught fire on a massive land tract.
Yeah. That was actually on that doctor's property. Yeah. That was, and like I said, that one wasn't a worse one. Cause I do like that. A result of that project, it put our biggest project we've ever done on our books. And so, but it was terrible. That was awful. Like, we had burnt, like I said, we had cleared 12 or 14 acres for him. Austin had everything stumped and had burnt up until he had burnt on like Monday or Tuesday. It had rained like Wednesday and Thursday. And it was a Sunday afternoon. I got a call from the GC who had some stuff stored on the property with a camera. And he calls me, hey, Andrew, he's like, y'all burning today? I was like, no, we are not even on site today. He said, man, they got some stuff on fire. I was like, that's not good. And it was pretty close. I called Austin. He was sitting on his porch and he was like, man, don't play with me. I was like, dude, I'm telling you, man, he just called me. And so we take off there. I'm coming from my house. He's coming from his. We get there and the guy's it was an 80-acre property and probably 25-ish acres of it was on fire, underbrush just burning up. And so Austin jumped in the track hoe. I jumped in the skid steer and we start like trying to back burn it. Like, we cut a line and then we tried to back burn to it like you would burn underbrush that way to kill it. All we do, that was like 4 or 5 o'clock, something like that in the afternoon. We stayed there till 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. We emptied every fire extinguisher we had and got it put out. Nobody got called. Forestry service, nobody got called. But it's still, even that night, like, we're sitting on the back of the truck at 3 o'clock in the morning, like, because we're not leaving now. And now, it was like, that sucked. It was hard. We were beat up, but it was like, man, I was like, you know what? In a couple of years, like, we're going to look back and laugh at this. And it still is. Like, it's laughable now, but it was terrible then. I was like, oh, we're out of business. This stuff, we're selling everything we got. We're going to get sued. Like, but we told Jeremy about it, and he's like, anything get damaged? And we're like, no, basically just the underbrush. He's like, all right, cool. Oh, well, don't worry about it. It's like,
awesome.
But then again, it could have went very different with a different owner too.
Well, it could have, but I mean, that fire could have started way outside of your scope of realm, and you were doing him a favor by stopping it. So, but
yeah, oh yeah, for sure. But I have my own theories about that, because based off of the way the wind was blowing that day and which way the fire went, it was very convenient. But yeah, it's out and it doesn't matter now. We made money on those. Like I said, on the next job.
That's that whole mindset thing, right? Like, you show up at 3, 4 in the afternoon and you see that. You can either go, oh shit, and then go, okay, compose, plan, what are we going to do? Or you can just frantically and chaotically run around and hope to God you make a difference.
Yeah. That's pretty much it.
Controlled chaos in that one, I take.
Yeah, for sure.
It had a plan, but it was still chaotic.
Yeah. That's why burning in general, man, I hate doing it. I hated burning. That'll leave you sour about lighting a fire now.
Yeah, no kidding. I want to talk about what your vision is for the next 3, 5, 10 years for the company. I mean, you've been very diligent in your cash flow management. You've been very smart about not hiring yet, but you've got to be getting to a point with this company where the stress of doing it without employees is starting to show some cracks.
It is. Yeah. Oh, it definitely is. Because it comes down to now the same way our growth was limited when we were doing residential and just weekend warriors. It's doing the same thing now. It's like, because we have connections with like some good GCs, and we've been burnt by bad ones too. I can speak about that too. Like, I would tell everybody, in short, work with in-state contractors. don't mess with an out-of-state contractor. Find in-state contractors that are good, deal with them, stay there. Don't get tempted by the out-of-state ones. But now, like, we're running into that same thing again. Like, where I've got work, we can go bid, we can go quote, and like GCs that like us and like, hey man, I want you to do this. I'm like, well, we can only do kind of one project at a time right now. And like our kind of range is like that 1 to 5 acre, like think like commercial sites like the Cookouts, O'Reilly's, Wendy's, like that kind of side, little medical office buildings, like because this stuff, like me and my brother can bang out by ourselves with an extra hand or two when we need it. We're running GPS on our equipment now. Like that was a big investment for us because it saves us time. Then like it just makes things better. But so now we're at that point where it's like another inflection point of like we need human beings now. Because if I'm in the ditch every day and Austin, he's never coming off the job site. That's just what he loves. That's where he's going to stay. But like if I'm in the ditch every day, I can't be estimating and bidding more work.
Or maintaining those relationships with those GCs.
Yeah. So we're still there. But I think definitely the next 3 to 5, it's continuing to do the same thing we're doing right now. But when you talk to some of these bigger companies, especially you get into that with these bigger GCs, they're doing large stuff where they get into that 300, 400, $500 million range, their profit margins are tight. Very like 3 to 5%. And like, I don't want to be there. I like where we live right now. So my thing is more of like, I would rather stay right where we're at and go build another crew here, and be able to do multiple projects at once with way better margins than being tempted to go after, like, I'm going to be a big GC or be a big, heavy civil. Like, yeah, I'm sure we will. That's kind of the long game. Like you think 25 year. Yeah, I want to be doing big, heavy civil stuff. But like right now, next 3 to 5 is build out multiple crews doing pre-commercial stuff, just like we do right now. Utility work and like just full site work on those 1 to 5 acre sites, maybe even 10, to where we can come in and we can do everything. We can do storm, we can do sewer, we can do we usually sub out like erosion control and stuff like that. Not very fun for me, but but the grading, the site prep, and even now, like if there's land to be cleared on it, I'll sub that stuff out. I want to be moving dirt, and that's what we like doing. So, that's awesome. Kind of my the 3 to 5 year thing. It's definitely it requires people, and so that's why I'm looking for human beings that want to come and are but it's like you want one of those dudes. It's like he's willing to get in the ditch, but he also can run track hoe, but he also can communicate well enough. If I need him to be on site for the day and be the boss man, he can talk to the GC and he's not looking at the ground or, I need a
hire for that because you can train him how to use the track hoe.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not going to teach an introvert how to be extroverted,
No.
Yeah. No. My brother-in-law, he's a union carpenter. And for years, he got a job. His company that he worked for got hired by this general contractor that was building Portillo's after Warren Buffett bought it. It's he bought it for $1 billion and he started building them all over the Midwest and down towards Florida and all that. But so they built one in Peoria and they did such a great job. They wanted him to hire him for another one. And the next thing you know, they're in Mishawaka, Indiana and Evansville, Indiana. And it got to the point where the GC was trying to hire my brother-in-law away from the company to just come run every new Portillo's crew in the country.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't want to do that. But my thought behind that was there's companies or divisions of corporations that their whole job is to have that list of contractors. So when they build the new Starbucks or they build the new Walgreens, and all you got to do is start figuring out who those people are that run the Southeast region. And they might say, hey, are you interested in doing a job in Georgia?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got one today. It was a GC that we worked for, and he was like, "Hey, we just won this job. It's in Richmond, Virginia. Y'all want it?" And I was like, "Send me the plans. Let's look at it." For sure. But it comes it is. It's like you got to get. It comes down to relationships, and I didn't even know who to call 3 years ago. You didn't, but you just burn. It come back, burn those phones up. Stop at a job site and talk to somebody, and you might get run off 8 out of 10. But if you catch one, it might be the one break you need.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the best advice.
Developers
man.
is another one.
Like residential developers.
Well, either residential or like commercial developers. Like we've got one that we've built a relationship with now as a result of a bad GC experience. The developer come in, took over the project, and like pulled in a GC, but building a relationship with that developer. Like they're doing they're building 5 more of these little places in commercial properties in North Carolina. And he was like, y'all want them? Because we went over. It's the same thing of like, I think a lot of people nickel and dime to death, little stuff like when they're asked to do extra stuff. We're like, look, dude, if it takes me an extra hour, if it takes me an extra day, I don't care. Because I'm thinking 5-10 years down the road. And that developer like they've got 5 more in North Carolina. He's like, y'all want them? If there's site work on it, y'all can have it, because he's had a good experience with us. Like he called me the other day. He was like, hey, Andrew, do y'all have a forklift attachment for your skid steer? And I was like, yeah, I think it's still sitting over on site. He's like, great. He said, if you don't mind, he was like, I've got a load of brick coming in. Could your guys unload it? And I'm like, yeah, that's not a problem at all. But like some people will be like, well, I'm going to need to change order that. And that's going to be an extra $1,000 because I'm going to have to pull my guy off of this. I don't care. It's not about like, and my brother's big on it. It's not about money for us. It ultimately is about money because you have to have money to pay bills. But if it was about money, man, we would have quit already. Like, because if you wanted to sell something, like go sell ice cream. Ice cream's easy to sell and everybody wants it. Doing big land clearing projects, like that stuff's tough to sell.
Well,
and your margins are thinner.
And it's expensive to get into.
Yes. Yeah, your barrier to entry is tough. And like the small barrier is super saturated with skid steers and minis and stuff. But everything else, like equipment is not cheap.
No. And let's just, I'm in my head, so now I got to talk through this. But like, let's say I wanted to start an excavation business here in Peoria, and I didn't have a 2,500 series or larger truck, right? So I got to get rid of my vehicle. I got to spend, let's be conservative and say 25 grand on an old used one. And then I got to get a trailer. So there's another 5.
Yeah, 5, 7, somewhere in there, depending on what shape it's in.
You can't touch a skid steer anymore for less than 35, 40.
Nope.
And now that you got the machine, what work are you going to do? So now we got to go drop another 5, 10, 15 on attachments. I mean, you're $80K just to even think about getting in this game.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And that's cheap.
Yeah. That's on the short end. And it's like, if you want to go in like, all right, well, you want a 20K, you want a 20K excavator and a 20K dozer, or you $500,000.
Shit, you're $500,000. Yeah.
Easy. And then you got to have a way to move it. You got, if you want a low boy in a big truck, or you're going to have to sub that out.
Which isn't cheap either.
Like, it's chunky, man. Yeah. It is a very like capital intense endeavor to start. But like,
which makes me lose my mind when some guys makes me lose my mind when guys are like, what should I charge my dozer? $220 an hour? And I'm like, oh my God, you just go work for somebody if all you care about is an hourly rate.
Yeah, dude. I ain't done. I despise the hourly rate thing. Like if you can't, and everybody's always looking for, what are y'all getting for this? What are you getting for that? Like, man, how do you not know your cost? Like yours is different than theirs. And it's like, I've lumped summed everything. Probably within the first year we got away. I didn't itemize anything for residential. I lump summed everything. Because then they start nitpicking if you itemize stuff. But that hourly rate thing, that stuff's for the birds. Like, don't get me wrong. Ultimately, is there an hourly rate that is associated with my track hoe or with my dozer that
there's an hourly expense,
like what it cost me? Yeah,
there's an hourly expense.
That doesn't have anything to do with what I charged for.
Right. I watched a guy and he was a painter. This bar owner wanted this mural done behind his stage in this brick building, and he gives him a price for like $800. And he's just like, you sure you don't want to do like an hourly rate? And he's like, nope, I just flat fee. He's like, you sure? He's like, yep. He's like, and the owner kept trying to talk him into an hourly rate, thinking that he wanted a better quality piece of art.
Yeah.
This dude knocked out a black and white mural. It's the coolest thing I've ever seen in 4.5 hours.
Dang.
And I was like, that's why I didn't want the hourly rate. Like,
yeah, that is exactly
he made twice as much money, maybe, or more. Because he was proficient at what he did. The end result was irrelevant,
Absolutely. Yeah.
And that's why I tell the guys like this. I'm like, if you get really good, like let's just say driveways, you get really good at driveways and you buy the right equipment, hourly rate is cutting yourself way short.
Mm-hmm. It's going to hurt you. It's not going to help you. It's not going to help you.
Discounts the value you provide.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And the other one is like what I tell, especially young people, like, do not let anybody talk you down. I won't come off $1 for nothing, because I'll ultimately, and here's how I sell it. Here's how I sold it to customers. It's like, well, man, you think, all right, so let's say it's something that's $5,800. Well, man, you think you could do 5? No, sir. Like, my mama don't get a discount. My daddy don't get a discount. Because here's the thing. It's like, I know exactly what this costs. If I come off my price and I tell you that I'll charge you $5,000 instead of $5,800, what it tells you is that I was willing to take advantage of you and charge you an extra $800 to begin with. My brother's, there was one, we had a guy we had done when we used to do the little brush cutting thing. There was a guy that told Austin at the end of the day, Austin had told him, it was like, hey, it's going to be $1,800. And the guy goes, well, how about 1,600? Austin said, all right, now it's 2,000. And the guy was like, that ain't how you barter. And Austin's like, well, we weren't bartering.
Exactly. So, I literally had one of our clients in the Groundbreaking Growth Coaching Program text me this morning at like 6:30. He's like, hey, do you have a minute to talk this morning? And I told him to give me a call. And it had the same problem. He had this guy's got 2 cutaway areas that he uses for deer hunting property. And like one's 5.5 acres, one 1.5. He's got about $7,500 budget. And he's like, the 5.5 acres is going to be $10,000 from the way I'm looking at this. I said, well, then tell him it's $10,000.
Yeah.
I'm like, one, don't protect or spend your customers' money.
Mm-hmm.
And then don't discount your value. And I'm like, if he doesn't want to spend $10,000, change the scope of work. Don't discount the project.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
You know, like if he wants to get below that price point and you can get there by leaving every 5-inch tree and above instead of every 7-inch tree and above, then change the project scope of work.
Yeah. That's a big one. It's like, change the scope of work. And most of the time I feel like customers, like a lot of people say it's like, well, price objection is a big thing. Most of the time they don't. I think it's like, it's not a price objection thing. It's bigger. It's more of like, they don't understand what they're paying for. And maybe you haven't communicated the level of service that you're offering to let them know how much value you're getting for what their spend is. It's like, ultimately people think it's price objection, but it's not price objection. It's they don't understand why they're spending that much.
It's lack of awareness because they don't do this work every day.
Yeah, they don't. Yeah.
Yeah. And like, I don't like line iteming things either, but I still like to create the line items with a description of what each piece of the project is, just no price. Right. So like if you say, hey, driveway, 1,800 feet, $5,000, and that's your whole quote. Well, I don't know what the hell that means.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
But if you start with that and you talk about the subgrade and the material and the crowning and the feathering of the road, and now I'm like, I know exactly what I'm getting for that money. And I'm like, this seems like a bargain.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that's the ticket. At least definitely on the residential side. I don't think like.
Well, you've got to be detailed on the commercial side.
Oh, dude, yeah. You got to do that, protecting yourself with exclusions, rock clauses, all kind of stuff like that.
Yeah, it's a whole different ballgame when you jump from residential to commercial.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's scary. And a lot of people, I've had guys ask me, like, how'd you do it? And it's like, well, the first couple, you're terrified of even bidding them. So my thing, me and Austin, our thing was like, when we sat down and talked about it, it's like, all right, we'll bid it. I'm going to bid this thing high as heck. And then that way, and like, this is something I got some advice from another GC. He was like, just bid it high and then go back to that estimator later, ask them where you missed. Now, they're not going to give you the competitor's price. They're not going to say like, hey, you bid it at $275. He bid it at $215 or $217.99. But like, it's going to be, he'll give you some ideas of like, hey man, well, you were a little high here, or like, and if they did ask for like on government stuff where they ask for like breakdowns, like they might tell you, hey, you were a little high on the grading, or you were high on the erosion control, or your sewer was high. But that's especially people trying to get into it. Bid the first couple high. And if that one's high, start changing. Like, all right, you were charging this for every cubic yard of dirt moved. Change it by 50 cents on the next one and just move it down until you land one. And that's kind of what we did when we were just open bidding stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause you'd rather not get the job than get it and then lose $50,000.
Yeah. especially because you get into those commercials, man, you're looking at tons of material, like, and it's like you need, like, you got to have great cash flow, or you got to have a little treasure chest to cash flow, because there's lots of stuff like it's been talked about on here before. Everybody that's ever worked for a GC talks about it. They are quick to get you to do the work, and they are slow to pay.
Slow to pay.
And so if it's net, so it's a lot of like, but you almost have to have 2 months worth of cash flow to where, like, because if you start work in January and they have to send their stuff to the bank for their pay app on the January 25th. Well, you're not going to get your money until, if they're a great one, the mid-February. And so you're looking at 6 to 8 weeks of cost incurred to your business that you're having to eat until you get
carry
paid.
it.
Yeah,
and it literally is the cost of doing business in that game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, yeah, it is. And that was a big one for us, like making that shift. It's like, me and Austin, like, we don't pay ourselves very much. Like, we take bare minimum, because that's what we're trying. I want to build that treasure chest up so that, like, when we have, like, we've had that before at GC. It took us 4 months to pay. It was like, I was sending the lien. I had the stuff filed out with a lawyer to put a lien against the property. And then we got paid the day before, and it's like, there's time where, like, 4 months of waiting on a check. Like, man, that can put people out of business.
Absolutely. Yeah, because it's not a small residential French drain job. You're talking massive commercial job.
Yeah.
And a less than 5-year-old business, which is still fragile. Even though you're doing well, you're still fragile.
Very, 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 very fragile.
There's a reason they say it's the 8-year overnight success story.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
It
is, man. It's a lot. If you want to do it, it's a lot of, like, something's got to sacrifice. Like, so it's like, no vacations, no big nice house. Like, we ain't driving brand new trucks. Like, I'm very picky about, like, how we present ourselves. Like, and even with our equipment, we go a few years old to where we ain't got tons of maintenance on them. The same thing with our trucks. A few years old, you want to still be presentable. You want to look good, but, like, we're not driving 450 platinum dualies. Like, we're just, like, one more about, like, we're trying to build this business. We're not trying to look like we own a business. We want to have a real business.
Yeah, I don't understand I don't understand anyone's mindset that they think that's a good purchase.
I don't either.
A platinum anything.
Yeah.
Maybe the 250 or maybe a 350 for the retired guy with the massive RV and he wants that platinum.
Yep.
If you're putting a trailer with equipment on the back of it, I don't get the allure of the whole platinum package as a business owner.
Yeah, I think it's this all keeping up with the Joneses type thing. It's like, you want the appearance that you are super successful when you really, man, that's the bank's truck.
Yeah.
They just let you drive it.
They just let you drive it.
Yeah.
It's true, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because when I bought mine, I had to I bought an F350 because when I did the calculations on towing, I was I was like 90% of capacity of the 250. And I've got a firm rule. Like, if I'm over 80%, you got to go up. Like, because I'm not, that's when shit breaks.
Yeah. Because it's rough on your stuff. Wears it out.
Yeah. So, like, that was the whole reason I went to the 350. And then I'm like, the one I found used was the Lariat package. And I was like, perfect. Like, that's got everything you need. It's still really nice because I'm going to use this as a day driver. I don't haul a ton of shit every day.
Yeah.
But anything above that package was a no-go, was a no-touch, unless it would have been a screaming deal that you had to take it. But
yeah, because it doesn't benefit you. Like, I can't add the fact that I've got a platinum on my line item. Like, I can't factor that into my business and my customer pay for it. Like,
and I bought it 2 years old with 60,000 miles.
Yeah, that's how mine is. Like, mine, I've got a 250. Austin's got a 350. His truck is 10 years old, but it runs great. And, like, we're not getting rid of it. Like, he said, he's like, I'm not getting rid of it until I have to. And it looks good. It's still well maintained. Mine's a 17 that I just bought, like, not long ago. And it is, like, paid. Like, we don't, like, our big thing is, like, debt. I'm not scared of debt, but we're very, very careful about how much debt we carry. We like to have one payment is, like, where I like to live. I don't want to have, because, like, you got to do some of these equipment, like, Cat's pretty good about it, like, especially here. Like, they will not, they're very picky about how they loan stuff out. But I like
Caterpillar.
Some of the ones, like, you can go get $1 million worth of equipment. At least our Carolina Cat has been great to us, but, like, they want to see you succeed because they would rather see you grow than hand you $1 million worth of equipment.
Well, there was a period where there was a period, Andrew, that you could have got your LLC yesterday.
Yeah.
And Cat would have financed you for $500,000 or more. I mean, it was crazy a couple years ago.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it was nutty. And that was when there was no equipment on the lots. Like you couldn't find anything.
I mean, prices jumped 20-30% like overnight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That was one thing I know, like the pre-COVID thing, like when we bought our stuff, like we kind of got a deal on the little skid steer. And like when we bought our trailer and first truck, like it was before those prices went and jumped through the roof.
Yeah. Cause I bought my truck for mid-50s, and during COVID, it was worth like almost 75.
Mm-hmm. I was real tempted to sell them things.
You can't fill it. You can't replace it.
Yeah, you can't replace it. That's what you come down to.
Like, hey, I made an extra 20, but I spent 35 extra on the next. I'm like, I'm good with what I got.
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't make it cash flow in the backside. Like, as enticing as it was. Now, if I wanted to get like a 4-door sedan, I probably would have been perfect. But man, I love that, man. It's really big about having the right mindset and knowing that life happens for you, not to you.
Yeah, that's a big one, man. That's been a big one for me.
Yep. Preserve cash, but don't hoard it.
Yep, because you need it to grow. Like you've got to use it.
Yep. Grow at a sustainable rate.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have more time than money, spend every minute you have available trying to build your network.
Yes. Yeah, like, agree. 100%.
If I were to think about our conversation today, I think those are probably the 4 most powerful points that I'm taking away from you and your story. Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely just perseverance, just dealing with stuff. Like stuff's going to happen. Like you don't want an easy life. You don't like easy life. Like it gets you nowhere. It just doesn't. Like you want to do hard shit every day. That's what I challenge everybody to do. Get up and do something hard. And if hard for you is going and taking a 45-minute walk, great. If hard for you is putting on a vest and running 10 miles before you go to work, great. Do hard shit.
Yeah, the level of hard
the rest of your life easy.
The level of hard is all comparative to where you're at in your own personal life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Because it does, man. It makes things easier when you're used to getting kicked in the teeth during business, like because that's what it's going to be. It makes it easier to deal with. It's like, okay, cool. I've been here before. I know what happens here. Then you can come out on the other side of it and look back and be like, man, all right, I accomplished a lot today. I did.
You do it long enough, you start to look forward to it and enjoy it. And that's when people look at you like you're crazy.
Yeah. People look at you like you're nuts. Like this dude needs to be medicated.
Because I do cycling, and like 1 week a year, we ride our bikes across the entire state of Iowa. So it's 500 miles.
Dang.
In a week. And everyone's like, with pedals? I'm like, yeah, pedals.
That is wild.
And I'm like, and day 3, day 4, it's miserable.
Yeah.
But the last day, I wish I wasn't done, and I can't wait till next year.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Yeah. I get that.
Yeah. I don't care how much you train for something like that. Your ass doesn't get ready for a 9-hour day consecutively.
Your legs probably full of blood all day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like you said, you grind through it. And at the end of the week, I'm like, God, I wish this wasn't over, because I just have such good mental clarity, because all you got to worry about every day is just pedaling that bike to the next town.
Yeah. You don't look back and be like, oh man, I'm real grateful. And like, you don't enjoy those little days that weren't hard. You can't look back on them and be like, man, I'm glad I made it through that. But it's like those days where you do hard stuff and you get through it, whether it's business, whether it's personal, financial, physical. It's like, those are the days where it's like, man, like I'm proud of me. Because you got to get up and look at yourself in the mirror every day and be proud of that person.
Man. Yeah. You can't find your strength in others.
Nope.
That's powerful stuff.
If you do, it won't last long.
Yeah. That's powerful stuff, man. Whew. I feel like I just got to work out just hearing all this today. I guess a lot. I talk to guys like you all the time, and I read books and all that. And even like every now and then a guy comes on the show and like he hits me to a point where it impacts, and I start reflecting on my own life too. And you kind of did that today. So thanks, man.
I'm glad I could. I appreciate it, brother, man. I appreciate you having me on. It was a blast. It really, really was. I enjoyed this conversation.
I wish you and Austin the most success, and I know it's going to be a slow, steady climb, because that's the way you've built the business to grow. And you're not comparing yourself to other companies out there. And I'm excited to watch Hurley Earthworks continue on their journey over the next few years. And when you hit some benchmarks, maybe we'll bring you back on. Or if you miss some benchmarks, because there's a lot to learn from those too.
Oh,
but
yeah.
Bringing
very
you
well
back on in the future to kind of hear the rest or the next phase of this journey for you and your brother, and to share that with the guys. I think that'd be awesome.
Man, dude, I absolutely would appreciate it, and I look forward to it. I appreciate what you do too, because it's important. Like, it is like people need what you're doing. People need, like, they want that data and want that info in the early days. Like, they're looking for something, and if what you put out is just a piece. It's the ripple, butterfly, like the little ripple. Like, if that starts somebody's business, and then in the long 20 years from now, they've got 100 employees, and it started with what they heard from you. Like, man, that's impact. That's something that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, we've all got a calling to do something that we do, right, and to impact others around us. And maybe this podcast was God's calling for me to be able to reach a broader audience than what just sits in my neighborhood. So I enjoy doing it. I'm glad I can do it. I'm glad it's my favorite part's meeting guys like you. I mean, I've got I've got a Rolodex, again, back to that network.
Yeah.
I've got a Rolodex of guys, no matter where I'm at in the country. I can be like, hey, I'm going to be in town next week. And they'll be like, I'll clear my schedule for an evening. Let's go hang out in person.
Absolutely.
So it's awesome.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, you ever get to North Carolina, you holler at me.
Well, my buddy Eric League, man, he was the first episode we ever did on this. He's a retired police officer. He'll kick my ass if I come to North Carolina and don't visit him and visit you. So I'd have to make sure that we knock out both of them.
Deal.
But he's a huge hunter too, so maybe we'll do a hunting party and we'll all get together. You'd love him, man. He's awesome.
You let me know. I'd be happy to have y'all.
Fantastic, man. Well, I appreciate it. Well, Andrew, thanks so much. Guys, man, listen to the episode twice. There's some takeaways from this that were really powerful. It's back to, again, mindset, perseverance, grind through, and know your fucking numbers. It's really that simple. It's hard, but it's simple. If it's overwhelming to you, head over to groundbreakinggrowth.com, schedule a discovery call with me for our mentoring and coaching program through Groundbreaking Growth. We'll help you define, profit, and scale your business and break through those glass ceilings that so many of you hit after 1, 2, 3, 4 years. So groundbreakinggrowth.com. And until next week, keep grinding, guys.